You and I are going wine shopping together. You can find a sensational bottle of wine for criminally low prices. Let's get started exploring and tasting new wines together. We're going to visit a country that we've yet to visit on our wine adventures, and we're going to learn about a grape that has been wholly adopted by this country. There's really no other grape in the world that has been so completely embraced by a country outside of its homeland. So much so that a lot of people are surprised this grape is not indigenous to this country. I'm talking about Malbec and Argentina. The Malbec grape is not indigenous to Argentina, as many people have come to believe. It is in fact French, coming from the southwest part of the country, where it is also known as Côte and Terroir. For a long time, it was also a key blending grape in Bordeaux. Unfortunately though, after a brute louse called phylloxera wiped out Bordeaux's vineyards in the late 1800s, along with the rest of Europe's vineyards, it was decided not to replant much Malbec. This is because it can be a pretty finicky grape and is very prone to mildew and other vineyard pests. This is when the hardier Cabernet Sauvignon really took center stage in Bordeaux. Malbec remained popular in the southwestern regions though, and today, outside of Argentina, the region of Cahors is where you're going to find the largest concentration of single varietal Malbec wine being produced. Malbec first came to Argentina around the mid-1800s by a nostalgic French botanist who had married an Argentinian woman and moved there. Not much focus was put on the quality of the wine at the time, unfortunately, and Malbec didn't gain the recognition as the nation's grape until over 100 years later. Then, with more modern winemaking techniques and help from people like winemaker Paul Hobbs, producers learned the best ways to manage their vineyards and tweak their winemaking techniques to fully harness the power and realize the potential of the Malbec grape. And thus, the Malbec craze began. There is more Malbec planted in the Argentinian region of Mendoza than anywhere else in the world. This is Argentina's most important wine region. It's located in the foothills of the Eastern Andes, and it boasts some of the highest vineyards in the world. The average is between 2,000 and 3,600 feet. For reference, the very highest vineyards in Napa Valley run about 2,000 feet. The vineyards of Argentina in general, especially a northern region called Salta, boast the highest vineyards in the world, some reaching almost 11,000 feet. For those of us living at sea level, can you imagine how difficult it would be to harvest vineyards at that altitude? The Andes work as a rain shadow for Mendoza, blocking rain and moisture, so it is a very sunny, somewhat arid region with very little extremes in temperature throughout the year. This creates a nice, steady growing season for the fruit here. And all of the snow melt coming down from the Andes Mountains creates a natural irrigation system for the vineyards. This makes it the ideal place for that finicky, mildew-prone Malbec grape to thrive. The main threat to grapes here is hail, which growers use nets to protect them from. So the bottle I'm sharing with you today is from Trader Joe's, and it's $7.99. This is the Finca Fleischmann Gestos Malbec. They call it Malbec plus Malbec, or Malbec and Malbec, because the grapes are being sourced from two very distinct vineyard sites and terroir. So some of these grapes are coming from high altitude vineyards at 3,600 feet. And so these are going to be the skeleton of the wine. Because temperatures drop as you gain altitude, this preserves the natural acidity and tannin in the grape. So again, that's skeleton and also some really nice high-toned red fruit notes. Whereas the other portion of the grapes are coming from a lower altitude, a mere 2,300 feet. And so this is going to give the flesh of the wine, or as they say on the label here, density and volume. It gives all the really nice, rich, dark black fruit and body and velvety texture. And I love that they explain all of this directly on the label. It's one of the reasons I grabbed it, because I just love that they're trying to educate you before you've even opened up the bottle. It's very approachable. So that's one of the reasons I chose it from the pretty extensive lineup of Malbec at TJ's that they have to offer. The other reason is that this is from Mendoza, so that we can taste what that very important Argentinian growing region tastes like in the glass. Malbec from Argentina is typically going to be the more robust, fleshy, those dark black fruits, lower in tannin, lower in acid, just much richer and more unctuous, as opposed to, say, a Malbec from Cahors in France, which is going to have a little more tannin, a little more acid, and have more red fruit notes and dark red fruit notes. Again, this is typically, not always, because it's the wine world and there are always exceptions to the rule. But both styles, both the French and the Argentinian styles, have been found to age very, very well. This wine, however, is not going to age past today. So I think we should start pulling it apart. So immediately when you look at the color of Malbec, it's very opaque, very pigmented. You cannot see through this wine. And a lovely indicator that this is Malbec, for those of you practicing your blind tasting, is that there's this lovely magenta rim. So if I'm looking at a red wine and I'm looking at this, I can already put Malbec on my list of potential grape varieties. It also does look pretty viscous, which is gonna tell me that there is some potentially elevated alcohol levels in this, which is true because I looked at the bottle. It's 14.5. It's coming in hot. Yeah, on the nose, it is all of that rich black fruit, black plums, blackberries, blueberries, very juicy, very ripe, almost overripe to a certain point. And then they are using new oak on this. They age for 6 months in brand new oak. So that's going to impart not only additional tannin to this wine, but it's also going to give it some wonderful notes of vanilla, clove, cinnamon, all those baking spices, which is absolutely present on here. Lovely though, because it's not overpowering, but the clove especially is very present. There are also some really fun notes of tobacco, espresso, cocoa, floral notes as well, roses, and this kind of spicy black pepper that's jumping out at me on the palate. Really nice, rich volume and density. I would say moderate tannin, medium plus acidity, so this has good structure, but it is still soft, very velvety, pretty much what I was expecting. And yes, a little hot, a little bit of that alcohol as it goes down. But again, nothing's completely out of whack or off kilter. So as we had mentioned before, with the black fruit notes, this is pretty typical of an Argentinian Malbec, which is great. Love it when I pick out a bottle and it is what it's supposed to be. So in Argentina, there's this wonderful style of grilling their meats called asado. That's what this wine begs for. That's what this wine needs to be with, I think. So if you are grilling meats, especially leaner red meats, Malbec does really nicely with, especially one like this that doesn't have the super high structural components. So leaner red meats or richer poultry, you know, the darker meats, duck. If you're a vegetarian, roasted vegetables, mushroom dishes, great with herbal components as well. I saw on Wine Folly. So it's a black pepper buffalo burger, I need to read this, with blue cheese mushrooms and rosemary infused garlic kale chips. And I say yes to that, I will take that, I will take it with my glass of Malbec. Great pairing. This is a big beefy red wine. If you love those bigger, bolder reds and you have not tried Argentinian, specifically Mendoza Malbec yet, you must. This wine is for you. It wants to be friends with you. You can find so many great deals in Argentinian Malbec. You can also find some really good deals with the French Malbec from Cahors, around 15 bucks. Some a little bit lower, of course, some higher. But I think it'd be really fun to throw a Malbec party, grab a French Malbec, an Argentinian Malbec, and just taste through them and celebrate the differences and the similarities between them. This is just a really wonderful way to get more familiar with a specific grape variety. And if you also want to get more familiar, go on out to the rest of SOM TV and check out some of our amazing Malbec content, especially in our second season of Verticals. We learn a lot more about Paul Hobbs, the winemaker I mentioned, who has wineries all over the globe, including Argentina. And you can also check out on our Harvest series, the Viña Cobos episode, where he harvests his Argentinian vineyards. Really, really cool to watch these and see these high altitude vineyards being harvested. So please drop a comment, let us know what you think about Argentinian Malbec, Malbec in general. Do you love it? Do you hate it? What are some of your favorite bottles? And until we uncork our next bottle, I hope you keep exploring and trying new wines. Cheers.